Welcome to ICMK, with a Mortal Kombat 12 news update. Data files for Reptile, Tanya, and Smoke have been leaked. Leaked in the unreleased version of the data files belonging to the upcoming mobile game, Mortal Kombat Onslaught. People have been jumping to the conclusion that this leak is related to Mortal Kombat 12, for the reason of these characters having placeholder models in the data files, yet all others have a model from MKX or MK11. This could be a true leak, and I for one have no doubt about Reptile returning. However, this could be nothing. Keep in mind that this so-called leak is from an unrelated game to MK12, one of which is greatly unfinished, at least the versions leaked to the public. Reptile, Tanya, and Cyborg's Smoke, none of which are actually used in any way in the leaked versions of MK0, may simply just have placeholders in the leaked versions, and just had not implemented their models from MKX yet. If they were truly just waiting for MK12 models, then how do you explain other characters using old models instead of waiting for MK12 models as well? That doesn't make much sense to me. At best, this is a 50-50 situation, where yes, this could be a legit leak, though I doubt it, or as I expect, it could just as easily mean nothing, and people are just jumping to conclusions. Now what are my thoughts on the possibility of these three characters making the MK12 roster? Reptile I have zero doubts about, and have always said, no Reptile in MK11 just means he will be back in MK12. If Reptile were to not be in MK12 base roster, I would be shocked to my core, and I will have an epic rant about it, but I don't believe that rant will happen. To me, Reptile is as good as confirmed. Tanya is a really interesting pick if she were to be in MK12. I don't feel like she got over much in MKX as a DLC character, despite even having a role in the story mode. Maybe partially because her storyline from the original timeline was hijacked. Also, she simply isn't highly popular. Very much round in the mid of the pack in terms of popularity, and that's at best. So it seems like Tanya may not have much going for her to potentially get into MK12, but there is a couple things that help her case. First off, since her debut in MK4, Tanya has averaged being in literally every other game. Debut in MK4, not in Deadly Alliance. Returned for Deception and then of course was there in Armageddon, but for sensible reasons she was not in the next two games, MK vs DC, and MK9. However, then she returns for MKX's DLC, then nowhere to be found in MK11. She could miss MK12 and then return in MK13. Or she actually has a decent chance of sticking with the sort of pattern and return in MK12 to eventually miss MK13 most likely. If Tanya is to be in MK12 it will be base roster. This is not a range situation. There will be much more blowback for Tanya being a DLC character twice in a row, and I doubt they would do that with her. Another thing helping Tanya's case for making MK12, when you take a look at MK11's roster, you have Katana, Mylena, Jade, Scarlet, Frost. Essentially, all the so-called female MK ninja characters are in MK11, except for Tanya. So I can definitely see her returning in MK12 with Katana and Mylena, while Frost, Jade, and Scarlet sit out. In the end, I think this so-called leak is most likely not an actual leak. But I actually do believe Tanya has a pretty good chance mainly for the sake of mixing things up from MK11. Without knowing how many characters there will be, or how many of them will be new, it is hard for me to go 100 in on predicting Tanya, but I'll go to 90% prediction that she will indeed be in MK12. And no, that is not based off of this so-called leak. My Tanya prediction is based off of my prediction list from nearly a year ago. Lastly, the so-called leak also reveals Cyborg's smoke. For some reason, Ed seems to like the idea of having at least one cyborg-type character in almost every game. I solely believe this is why Frost was made into a cyborg in MK11, because none of the others would be playable. So I have a hard time believing there wouldn't be a playable cyborg in MK12. But who? Or how many? Smoke and Cyrax have always been really popular, and Sektor's popularity has actually gone up a good amount compared to the classic days. My nearly year-old prediction list has question marks with these three, but my gut feeling is that Sektor and Cyrax will return, but Smoke will not return, at least as playable. Sektor and Cyrax may not be base roster, and be DLC later down the road, but whichever way it happens, I predict Sektor and Cyrax both return as individual playable characters, and Smoke is going to be left out. Alternatively, I could see Smoke potentially returning as a sort of new character under the moniker of Enra. With their at the least semi-woke attitude, higher-ups may just not want to have a character named Smoke as a featured character. However, that is just speculation on my part. If I am wrong and Smoke does end up in MK12, that is fine with me. I just don't think it is going to happen. That is all for this update on MK12 news. Please leave a like to support the video and channel. Leave a comment below, tell me what are your thoughts of this so-called leak. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time, here, on ICMK.